PLAC staff, good morning, members of the media. We are all welcome to this retreat, to the retreat for the 10th Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions. Once again, good morning.
Good morning.
So we have, we are not behind schedule, but we need to move. And next on the agenda after registration is the opening statement of purpose of the retreat and welcome remarks by the Executive Director of Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clement Nwanko. Thank you.
Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah, give me a copy. No problem. We've started. Thank you very much to you. I wish you safe journey. Thank you. Sorry.
The chairman of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, who has just been on the phone with the vice chairman. The vice chairman of the committee, distinguished senators, distinguished resource persons, including my friend, classmate, and in-law, Senator Ikeja, who is a pioneering member of the National Assembly and has incredible experience with the National Assembly and worked on issues in the past, including electoral reform. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the retreat of this committee. It is a committee of great importance to all of us. And Chairman, I hope you come in your seats.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am very, very pleased, and it's exceptionally important to see. It's not a large committee, so for me, I think seeing a good representation of senators in the room here is very, very encouraging. It's also a very busy time for everyone, and I think that the fact that you have made out time to be here today clearly indicates the seriousness that this committee represents for you. But I know that it's a very, very important committee for citizens. It's a very important committee for Nigerians who clearly value the importance of legislators representing them. It's always a challenge for legislators, and I don't envy legislators. I tried to be one a long time ago. I didn't succeed. But I do realize that the senators and House members, of course, have their responsibilities clearly spelled out in the Constitution to make laws, to carry out oversight, and to represent citizens. And I think that the third arm of your function, your constitutional function of representing citizens is what is clearly in issue in terms of the specific responsibilities of addressing petitions of the public. I know that the public and your constituents send you other petitions as well. Some of it is a petition that drains your resources, and perhaps it's even worse now given the economic situation in the country. And I do know that a lot of people measure, which is quite wrong, the impact of legislators by how much they spend on those petitions and how much money you give to them directly into their pockets. But the truth is that the most effective legislator is one who is able to represent citizens effectively, making laws that are appropriate and taking into account citizens' concerns. But we also know that there are times that citizens find that they get benefits when they have specific complaints against institutions of government, against agencies of those concerns are, and the committee is able to deal with it. And I know that the Committee on Public Petitions, because we have worked with this committee for several years, has been very effective in dealing with a lot of petitions. But also it has the disadvantage that a lot of people know that this committee carries out the functions of representation or the functions of addressing their petitions. So my hope is that it is going to be a key outcome of this retreat, that the committee further fine-tunes how best it can open up knowledge of the work of the committee to the public, so that the public would understand that they can communicate to it, and that this committee would act in response to those communications and petitions to address the needs of citizens. So there's quite a lot that is important for the committee, and that is open for the committee to continue to do. And from us at the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, the special privilege of engaging with this committee is something that we value very much, and we hope that this convening provides opportunity to further smoothen that relationship between us. I know there's a lot happening even in the hotel this morning. I'm running between 3 meetings that PLAC is organizing. We'll have across the hall the committee, the joint Senate and House committees on electoral matters, which is looking at responding to some of the observations from the last elections to see if there is the possibility to reform the Electoral Act or to amend the Electoral Act. So that meeting is ongoing next door. There's also the House Committee on Human Rights, which is also having its own meeting next door, and those are meetings that PLAC is involved in, and I've been rotating between those meetings. So I do hope that I am pardoned if at some point I go into the next one, but I'm here, and I'm happy that all of these senators and resource persons are here to guide us to reach very good conclusions from this meeting. Distinguished Chairman, senators, and staff of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity of this partnership. And I don't think we have anyone from the European Union SCGN in the room, but we do value their support for the work that we are doing with the committee on this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, the Executive Director, PLAC. As he has already opened the program with his remarks, it is very good for us to understand ourselves very well as the program is going on. I feel there is a need for us to do some small introductions so that at least even if we know ourselves, the Executive Director from PLAC will be able to know all the senators one by one of this committee, and also our senior is here, who has been a member of this committee since in the House of Representatives, and we were there, we joined him, and later he was in the Senate, and I feel we have a very good resource person here, and I believe we'll be able to get a lot of things from him, and therefore you are most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
I think we should be able to introduce ourselves for the benefit of understanding ourselves. Let me start from the chairman was.
Chairman Badros.
Chairman Badros.
Chairman Badros. That's a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, the team from the European Union, especially PLAC. I am Senator P.B. Barron, and I represent the good people of Rivers Southeast Senatorial District. I'm an Ogunnaike. I'm a member of this committee and of this retreat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm Senator Ikeja, and I'm a resource person, former member of the House of Representatives, Senator, House of Representatives 3 years, 3 terms, Senator 4 years, advisor to the President of the National Assembly, 5 years. Now, legislative advocate. Thank you very much.
Chairman, the organizers of this event, I want to thank you for this opportunity for us to get to know better what we're supposed to be doing. I've been a member of this committee since 2003, when I was in the State House of Assembly. I was in the State House of Assembly 8 years, House of Reps 8 years, and now in the Senate. And I've always been on this committee all these years. And so I'm privileged to be here to add more knowledge to what I have prepared within this series. My name is Senator Mohammed Ogunnaike. I represent Nasarawa South. But I'm also an Ogoni man from Nasarawa.
Good morning, my colleagues. I am Senator Ogunnaike. I represent Rivers East. I am a reliable member of this committee. And like he has said, I find it very interesting to be a member. The reason is, these days in Nigeria, there's so many things that don't go down well, don't sit right, both in terms of ethics, in terms of practice, and what have you. And so being a member of this committee creates an avenue that gives you room to take part in the process of finding solutions, and so on and so forth. So I'm very happy to be here. So they said it's so good. We accepted you from River State, and my brother here will confirm it. Thank you very much.
Chairman, distinguished colleagues, hosts, the Executive Director of PLAC, our colleagues in the National Assembly. My name is Dr. Petitions. Sam. I represent the dynamic figure of Enugu Northwest Senatorial District. And I am a member of this crucial committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, our Executive Director, clerk, and staff of the Secretariat. My name is Senator Ibrahim Khalid. I represent Kaduna North Senatorial District. I'm from Kaduna State. Incidentally, I was a member of this committee in the 6th and 7th House of Representatives Assembly, in the House of Reps. And by the grace of Almighty, I am now the deputy chairman of this committee in the Senate. And we're happy we're doing our work diligently to the best of our understanding, and we intend to continue. More so that PLAC are now giving us the opportunity to interact and give us more additional value addition, so as to see how we can carry our assignment with diligence and without much delay. Once again, we sincerely thank you for this opportunity. Okay, Secretary.
Chairman, sir, distinguished members of the Senate Committee on Petitions, my colleagues at the Secretariat, the friends and notables of the press, my names are Kabir Umayabu. I'm the clerk of the committee.
Distinguished senators and my colleagues, staff of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileged and Public Petitions, finally is Mr. Chris Omusonye, Deputy Committee.
Good morning, distinguished senators, our host, the clerk, executive secretary, my colleagues. My name is Mrs. Elizabeth Amani, the staff of the committee.
let me tender the apology of Mr. Chairman for his inability to be here at this point in time. He promised to be here at the next session. In fact, why he is unavoidably absent is because they just finished their primaries in Edo State, and he called just now and said that he will be on his way, and certainly he will join us, God willing. For now, he asked me to tender his apology and also to read his own opening remarks for this very important session. So I'm reading the text or the remarks of the chairman of this very important committee. The remark goes this way. It is with great pleasure and anticipation that I welcome you all to the transformative two-day workshop designed to enhance our skills and capacities in addressing the critical issues brought forth through public petitions. Effective legislature are the nerve ending of the polity. They connect people to their government by giving them a place where their need can be articulated. Their complaint heard and resolved. This underscores the need for timely and accurate information to be able to take an informed decision. The Policy and Legal Advocacy Center is a Nigerian independent, non-profit and non-partisan civil society organization that collaborates with the legislature to strengthen democratic governance, citizen participation and engagement with public institutions. This committee is collaborating with PLAC to organize this workshop today. As representatives entrusted with the responsibility of advocating for the interests of our constituents, we recognize the paramount importance of refining our abilities to effectively engage with response to the needs of the public. Over the course of the next 2 days, we are presented with a unique opportunity to delve into a comprehensive area of topics, ranging from legislative procedures and best practices in petition handling to effective communication strategies and conflict resolution techniques. Through interactive sessions and expert-led discussions and collaborative exercises, we aim to equip ourselves with the necessary tools and knowledge to navigate the complex landscape of public petitions with confidence and proficiency. Furthermore, this workshop serves as a platform for meaningful exchange and dialogue, allowing us to draw upon each other's experience, insight, and expertise. As we come together from diverse backgrounds and perspectives, let us seize this opportunity to learn from one another, foster mutual understanding, and forge strong bonds of collaboration that will strengthen our collective efforts in serving the public good. As we embark on this journey on learning and growth, let us remain mindful of the profound impact that our actions can have on the lives and processes of all participants, facilitators, and organizers for their invaluable contributions in making this workshop a success possible. Together, let us embrace the challenges ahead with enthusiasm and determination, knowing that our collective effort have the power to effect positive change and to build a brighter future for all. Thank you, and let us commence this workshop with new zeal and dedication. Thank you very much once again.
Mr. Chairman.
So thank you very much. I think that, where's our phone here?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the wonderful speech. And once again, we are all welcome to this very special retreat. Next on the agenda is the group photograph, and immediately after the group photograph, we are going to go for a short tea break. Then next will be our resource person.
I don't know about tea break. We haven't started.
We have to follow the agenda.
Well, the agenda is group photograph.
I thank you, distinguished senators. My successor in office, the chairman of Rules and Business, the distinguished senator from Ogunnaike and Rivers East, the Executive Director of PLAC, I think, is taking a step up too. Let me thank you for inviting me, and I pray that we're going to be able to have an exciting discourse. Let me appreciate the staff of the Ethics and Privileges Committee, and then the staff of the Chairman's office also. Let me appreciate you. Now, let me start by saying that I have always had reservations with the Senate Committee on rules, on petitions, ethics and privileges, because ethics and privileges is very, very and far different from petitions. And in the House of Representatives, we have a different committee on ethics and privileges, different from public petitions, because both of them are equally very busy and active. And I think the most active time we had the Rules and Business was when Mr. Integrity was chairman, you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, Farouk Lawan. I think he elevated it so that everybody wanted to be chairman of ethics and privileges when Farouk Lawan was chairman. So, but I will try. Have you been able to open, please? Have you been able to open? Okay, please try to open. Now, let me appreciate the privilege of a presentation with my successors in office, distinguished senators, and indeed the challenges we normally have in considering reports led by committees on public petitions, ethics and privileges. This arises from the fact that the basic principle is that you do not, in general, consider petitions in which there is a legal remedy, but then there is almost no right breached or privilege circumscribed in which there is no legal remedy in a court of law, depending on the court cloth with jurisdiction, again depending on the subject matter. The Committee on Ethics and Privileges, the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions is established by Order 94, Rule 4 of the Senate Standing Orders 2022, as now severally amended, and has our functions as follows. I have set it out. I'm sure I don't need to read it because we are preaching to the converted. You already know the function that you are. Now, the House of Representatives has always had two distinct committees on, one, public petitions, two, ethics and privileges. The Public Petitions Committee sets out some of our functions as per Order 25, Sub 2 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives does. Oversight of the Public Complaints Commission, considering the subject matter of all petitions referred to it and reporting to the House from time to time its recommendations on actions to be taken thereon, together with such other functions. The Ethics and Privileges Committee sets out its functions as per Order 20 as follows. The Ethics and Privileges Committee of the House of Representatives recommend to the House from time to time such administrative actions as it may deem appropriate to establish or enforce as standards of conduct for members. That is ethics and privileges. Investigate subject to paragraph 4 of this paragraph any alleged violation by a member of the Code of Conduct or any other law, rule, regulation, or other standard of conduct applicable to the conduct of such member, and after notice and hearing, to recommend to the House by resolution otherwise such action as the committee may deem appropriate in the circumstance. Report to the appropriate federal or state authorities with the approval of the House any substantial evidence of a violation by a member of any law applicable in the performance of his duties. D. Give consideration to the request of any member for an advisory opinion with respect to the general propriety of any or current proposed conduct of such a member, and with appropriate diligence to assure the privacy of the individual concerned. The privileges of the legislators is set out in chapters 4 of the Senate Standing Orders. I have the standing orders here. I had to bring the standing orders of the Senate. I had to bring the standing orders of the House because these are not online. And I pray that we tried as much as possible to amend it to put it online, but it wasn't easy because sometimes there are things we do that we don't want the public to really see that standing orders. So if sometimes you summon somebody or you invite somebody, say he doesn't know you, it is because of this, but because of the powers of the Senate or the House of Representatives, they will not say that, but they ought to resist you. In law, they can resist you because you don't exist. Because a committee that is established by the rules has legislative backing, has legal standing, has powers. But if you are just like we created, we had problem with the women. We made committees we didn't give him. And the one we gave him, he didn't like. So we had to create a committee on NDG for women in the Senate. Yes. And that committee did not throw out our term. Was not reflected in the standing orders. But after that, it was reflected in the 8th Senate, after the 7th Senate. So those are some of the committees. And of course, Chairman of Rules of Business, there are some committees that are not necessary. But there is one committee I tried to create, but it wasn't accepted. Sorry, I'm not deviating, but I think we were sharing opinions with the Senate. The Committee on Judiciary, Legal Matters, and Human Rights is too large to be one committee.
Yes.
The Committee on Judiciary takes care of the entire judiciary, which is big enough. Justice takes care of Ministry of Justice, which is very big. Human Rights take care of the National Human Rights Commission and international bodies relating to human rights. So please try, enforce, and bring out. It can help the leadership to give something substantial. I succeeded in the House of Representatives, after a lot of fights with Okon, who was chairman of House of Representatives Committee on Judiciary, Justice and Legal Matters and Justice. I succeeded in creating justice out of judiciary in the second term. In the third term, I succeeded in creating human rights. So from the Committee on Justice. So please, I give this as a charge to you. Coming back to the standing order, I want to take account of one provision in the standing orders relating to this. I want to make a reference to the standing orders of the House of Representatives. And the standing orders of the House of Representatives, Order 6, Rule 3, says, a member raising a matter of privilege shall draw the attention of the House to the provisions of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act 2017. You'll come to the House, you'll see an honorable member who is coming, or the senator, and the police stops him on the road and say you beat traffic light, or can we see your driving license, or why did you, or they just simply ask him that there is an allegation against you, please report to the police. He comes to the floor and raises a matter of privilege. Do we not have that sort of situation? We have that. Now, you do not have a privilege or immunity to behave anyhow. In fact, the highest standard of behavior is expected of a legislator because you are the lawmaker. You are first to be the person obeying the law you make. The law you make binds you first. The law you make binds you first. So, being a member of the legislature doesn't give you any privilege to not to obey traffic lights, or drive wrongly, or not to be questioned by the police, or not to be subject to law. I'm sure we've seen how a former president of the United States, even as president, while clothed with immunity while in office, after that office, he is moving from one court to the other. And I'm sure we've seen how the presidents of the South Africa and other countries, after office, are being tried. They had immunity while in office. So the legislators don't even have. So you are expected to be the most obedient of all this thing. Now, why I draw attention to this is that I chaired the Rules and Business Committee for 12 years in the House of Representatives. I chaired 4 years in the Senate, and I was chairman in the House of Assembly where I was. When I was in the House of Assembly, I chaired the Rules of Business, 1992 1992 to 1993, under the Babangida Diary before we were sacked by that time. Now, I inserted this provision so that if you are coming to the floor and saying that the police invited me and I'm not expected to, you will open this Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act. You will open it and show all the section that says that you cannot be questioned or that you are a legislator, that you are not subject to, according to. Before this amendment, it was just anything, you know, even your wife quarrel with you, you know, or they catch you in a wrong place. You say you are a legislator, you booga. No. So this is the origin of this provision. Now, we'll not digress, but we'll draw attention to why we have the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act. The Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act of 2017 is a replacement of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act, I think 1953, which was referenced in the sorry, I set it out here. Yeah, the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act that was applicable in Nigeria up to 2017 was the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act of 1953, which we repeated in the 2004 edition of the Laws of Nigeria. You know, so it was repealed in 2010. I mean, in 20. One of the jobs that was done by the Farouk Lawan Committee at that time, which we couldn't perfect, was bringing up the Legislative House's power and privileges. It was too bogus. It was overreaching. It took account of what members believed should be their right, and which the laws did not allow it to be the right of members. It sought to elevate the legislators to the rank of, to the privilege, to the immunity of the governors, you know. And I took very strong view of it in the legislature because I said in the House of Representatives, he was with me and he knows that we were always in real big fight. I was of the view that we should, at that time even, because of the madness of the governors, because the president of this country does not exercise 1/3 the powers that governors exercise. The president of this country is not 20% as mad as the governors. And I said, look, if you elevate the legislators to the rank of immunity, that it will be so crazy for the country. And so that is why we didn't succeed at that time to pass it. And in the Senate, it was tried, but it wasn't serious about it. But after I left, and I became advisor on National Assembly, it was brought up. It was smoothened, and I was able to advise the president to assent. And I worked and led for the assent of this as advisor on National Assembly, you know. Because, so, I want to say that members, I'm sure, in your committee, do you take account of the provisions of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act? We do? Okay. I'm sure no question of privilege has arisen in this 10th Senate yet. Not yet. Now, the question of privilege, you are likely to have a question of privilege because it arose in the time of, when I was advisor, it arose under Bukola Saraki, because when there was a charge against him, and I think Ekweremadu, over the rules, because when we left in 2015, within the 4 days there was a change of the rules, and I was invited. The Senate leader was invited for forging the rules, which now the rules was changed to allow for secret voting, secret ballot, to enable the senators on both sides to be able to vote for Ekweremadu without being seen by the party. They changed it to secret ballot. Now, when it was done, I was arrested. I was invited. And I said, one thing I need before I can answer question is that they should show me the votes and proceedings where the rules was amended. Show me the order paper where it was listed. Show me the notice paper where it was notified. And show me the answer where it was said to be published. And the words I said in the answer as chairman of Rules and Business for the amendments of the rules. Now, I think they were charged courts. Part of this thing is that they are entitled to immunity or privilege. And when you go in this paper, you will see what the court said, that you are not entitled to such a privilege, you know, and that everybody is subject to laws of the country, you know. So that is the extent to which that went. So we make this Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act so that the legislator will know that you are the first person. The only immunity you have or protection you have is for words said or done in the course of legislative debate while the House is in session or respected committees, you know, while in session. But I also say that I knew that some of the things that I kicked against were there in the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges. And let me also say, what led to the forceful and urgent passage of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act? Remember that the legislature under Buhari, Saraki, legislative executive was the most turbulent. It was the most turbulent. And I think I had Professor Ikeja, then was the Chief of Staff to the Vice President, Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Chief of Staff Office of the Vice President. He aptly got it that he told me in one of the meetings that I am the most traumatized appointee and the most engaged appointee of the Buhari administration. You know. So that legislature was so tough between the executive and the legislature. And the legislature thought that if they pass the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act, it will stop the executive from coming after them in certain circumstances. But I did not want it to be a boxing matter. So I said, okay, let us assent to it, but we'll have different interpretations in the court. The content of it were not acceptable to me because as advisor, part of my job was to say yes or no. Because when the Chief of Staff, Abakari, may so rest in peace, would send to agencies, the ministries, the ministers, and the Attorney General, he will also ask me. So sometimes I will not write down. We will simply discuss because I was like the Deputy Secretary to Government. We will just discuss and we'll say yes. So whatever comes, we will decide one way or the other, you know. So this was intended to protect the legislature, and it went too far. So I will urge you not to rely on what is contained here, because it was politically expedient to sign it for the purpose of calming nerves. But half of the provisions here are illegal, unconstitutional, unenforceable, and unlawful, cannot be cannot stand the test under the Constitution. So, as you go on as in working on the legislative ethics and privileges, just be guided that almost everything here is not everything here that is enforceable. Let me also give you a matter that you also have to think about, which had been one of the matters we've been preaching ourselves. Ethics and privileges. There are matters that we raise concerning members of the public, which we send to ethics and privileges. Ethics and privileges is privileges of the members of the legislature as members of the legislature while doing legislative work in the legislative chamber in course of official sitting. That's your privileges. That's the ethics. Any member of the public, no member of the public is subject to Ethics and Privileges Committee, trial or to be heard. I saw many of them that you normally did, and one of them was mine, I think in 2016. 2016. I'm sure you remember the famous case of the missing budget. How many people remember the missing budget? Yeah. Okay. And you remember the stolen budget? It was me. They said I stole it. I stole the budget. What happened was, as advisor of National Assembly, we were late. We thought that the time was late to present the budget. The copies of the budget were there. So I led the president to come and lay the budget. He laid the correct version of the budget on the floor of the joint session. After that, the copies were the Senator Udoma, as minister, brought the copies of the hard copies to me. I now sent it to the House, to the Senate and the House chambers. And the House had its own, was working on it. The Senate said, look, what should they do to this Buhari? They said the budget is missing. They say, how can the budget be missing? Is it the same budget? The soft copy is there. The hard copy is there. He said, I stole the budget, that the presidential liaison stole the budget. So, in the course of it, the House, under Dogara and Omolori was the then the clerk of the, I think he wasn't the CNN then. I think he was the clerk of the House.
Clerk of the House of Reps.
Yes. He now said, look, everybody came and said, this is the House version. It is the same thing that was laid here. That is even extra privilege for hard copies to be sent to you. It is the job of the clerk to publicize this because there is provision in the budget for this to be reproduced and given to you. So it is the same. How can the House one be available and the Senate own is missing? Okay, if it is the Senate own is missing, come and take the House own. Yes. They said no, that the advisor must be tried. So they raised the matter. I think it was still my friend, Dino Melaya. And they were to pass a vote that I should not enter the National Assembly again. And I think that was the day when they met to consider it. Please put up the listing for me to appear before Anyanwu, who was to make a presentation here. Let me confess that I wanted Anyanwu to be here, who was the chairman of the committee on ethics and privileges and public petitions, who tried me and said I was guilty of stealing the budget. Now, what is my this thing? I appeared before the committee and I told them, look, I am not a member of the National Assembly. My tenure has finished. I am presidential advisor. I am an external person, and I am not under the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act, a person that is subject to being tried by the ethics and privileges. I am not subject to ethics and privileges of the House because I do not have a privilege of the floor. Ethics is for ethics of the members on the floor, and privileges of the floor. And for me to have access to the floor, you must move a motion that suspends the rule to invite me and to allow me to enter. A stranger. Yes, I said I'm a stranger. That I am not. I can't stand trial before your committee. I went and said I can't stand trial. Then I went to brief the president. The president said, those are your people, but go back, go and do your job. Face them and face the job as you have been facing. We knew why we called you. Because there was one of the days I asked the president, how did they nominate me for this job? I didn't even know. Who nominated me? He said, go and do your job, you have a good record. And I was very touched. So, why I'm bringing out this here is that ethics is ethics of members of the House, the senators serving and the members serving. Privileges are privileges of those who have been elected, sworn in, and still have active, valid, unexpired tenure on the floor. Even as Senate President, even as President of the country, you cannot breach the ethics of the House. You cannot. You can only be taken as a stranger. So I told Sam Daddy, politically we call him Sam Daddy. So I thought he will be here as chairman of the committee that tried me, so that we can discuss, so that we set a precedent that Ethics and Privileges Committee cannot try a stranger. It cannot extend to the outside. And I even raised attention to issues that arose in the House of Representatives, even in the House of Assembly, because in the House of Assembly, I was very active. I was in active legal practice. And so I went to the legislature as a lawyer. By God's grace, by 20th of August, in the next 6 months, I'll be 40 years as a lawyer. Yes, I'll be 40 years. And so I brought my legal standing to the floor, to him, that you can't try me. Yet, they made a recommendation to the floor that I should be sacked. But whatever happened to it, I served my term out and I served the 9th Assembly. I think I'm the only person who has served for beyond. I've cleared 3 sets of ministers, cleared 4 justices, chief justices of the Federation, and presidents of the Court of Appeal 3. So, gentlemen, I think these are the basic things that I think we needed to know about what is public petitions, ethics, and privilege. It was simply to know that there is this link, there is this distinction. One other matter that is a very serious constitutional question is what we did in 2010. What is the role of the National Assembly Committee on Public Petitions in view of the setting up of the Public Complaints Commission? What is the difference? Have you ever been worried about it? Have you had any issue of questioning yourselves? No. About the setting of we've set up the Public Complaints Commission as an agency, a parastatal of the National Assembly. The National Assembly has the National Assembly budget for members, the National Assembly budget for management, the National Assembly budget for Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies, then the National Assembly budget for Public Complaints Commission. We set up the Public Complaints Commission in 2010, and the Public Complaints Commission has 1 member from each state to serve a term of 3 years. With the Chief Commissioner, I think the Chief Commissioner Gagara made his chief of staff, the chief of commissioner, when it was the turn of the House. I think the next one was appointed by the President of the Senate. That is how it is alternated between okay, there is the National Assembly Service Commission. There are 4 agencies under the National Assembly. So when the Speaker appoints this, the Senate President will appoint that. And sometimes they normally give a privilege to the Deputy Senate President and Deputy Speaker to nominate. That is internal arrangement.
We have another one now, the library.
I'm sorry, sir?
We have another one now, the library.
Library, yes, another one.
Library. Library service
Yes.
as an agency?
Yes.
Well, it's okay, it's okay. And then there is the other one called National Assembly Budget and Research, NABRO. Is it an agency too?
Yes.
It's getting too much. It's getting too much, and it's. Let me take 2 minutes to talk about something. 2 minutes, please. I will soon conclude. 2 minutes. The essence.
Your time is finished.
Okay. Okay, I won't go there.
2 minutes.
I won't get.
I thought you said 2 minutes.
Okay.
learn from it.
Okay, please, let's learn from this. In case you become governor, don't allow the legislature to exercise the kind of power that the National Assembly is exercising. Because the National Assembly has exceeded its budget over and above. It has exceeded its budget over 2 times. Because the National Assembly was simply expected to operate as a legislative body. It wasn't expected to operate as a government. If you have all this, and then I looked at the budget, I looked at everything that is in the budget, and the budget of the National Assembly is over 700 billion. You know, when you put all the agencies together, almost getting to 1 trillion. So I think we should try to size it up. I mean, putting it up, you know, narrow it, because it is getting too much, and it will attract the attention. It will attract the attention of the public, and you will have beatings from areas that will then distract your attention. So please let me conclude by, this paper is here, it will be given to you. It will be sent soft copy to you. So I think we've considered every issue extempore. Let me draw attention to one section 30 of the 2004 Legislative House Powers and Privileges Act preclude the court from exercising jurisdiction over acts of the President, Speaker, or officer as follows. Neither the President or Speaker, as the case may be, of a Legislative House, nor any officer of the Legislative House shall be subject to the jurisdiction of any court in respect of the exercise of any power conferred on or vested in him by under. This was the Saraki insertion, just to try to protect them from prosecution and all those things. And this is against the Constitution, because nobody shall be outside the jurisdiction of the court, even the President. And even if you are outside, it is only for the period that you are in office. After that, you answer for it. So all that. Then I have set out here the differences between the provisions of the 1953 Act, which was repealed in the 2010 Act, and the 2017 provisions of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act. So you'll see major differences, and you'll see that most of the provisions here are unconstitutional. If you look at section 21 of the 2017 Act, it says, a person who has cause of action against the Legislative House shall serve a 3-month written notice to the office of the clerk of the Legislative House. This is denying access to the courts, and it is unconstitutional. You cannot make provision of a law that unduly restricts access of a citizen to the court. Now, there are other provisions there which I think we have touched. And finally, I will read this and close. That is just the provision establishing the Public Complaints Commission. Yeah, this is your rule. Have you published another one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Is it printed?
Yes.
In circulation?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry. I asked for it and I wasn't given so.
There's no much difference anyway.
Okay,
Only
just committees.
introduce new committees.
New committees, yeah.
And it had one rule about who becomes what.
Yes, which is not enforceable. That too is not enforceable because it has been interpreted. It's not enforceable. It's interpreted. It has been interpreted because it's been interpreted because whenever somebody has been sworn in,
As a senator.
you have ranked from that time of taking the oath, you know. And there is, we had this interpretation.
You still call some of us now ranking senators.
I think there was something that Mao did, and it almost cost him, and they called them jambites. In 2003, when new members came, and we met Mao, I think the deputy leader, and some new members, he called them jambites, and they swore that he cannot have peace, and he didn't have peace throughout. You know, so you are still not jambites, you know. But well, it's I speak as a lawyer. I speak as a legislative consultant, I speak as an advocate. Whenever, what gives you ranking, what gives you a status, is your certificate of return. It's your certificate of return. And that certificate of return entitles you to what every senator is entitled. The other ones are matters of privileges, you know, internal arrangement, persuasion, convention, persuasion, not
Can be set aside.
law,
Yes,
you know,
can be set aside.
you know. So, but
That's what they wanted to do for Yari now.
Exactly.
Because when he needs against you, and you go to court, you lose. Because they will not use the constitution.
it had been ruled a few times. It had been ruled a few times in the Senate and the House contest. Even when this lady from Southwest contested against, no, not against, the other lady, Monica contested. The court ruled that there is no restriction against any member, any provision that restricts is unconstitutional in the Mulikat case. Because there is one body that wanted to contest against her. We had a meeting at the Protea, and we decided to go to court. They decided to go to court. The court had ruled in that. So, but when we're in the frenzy of election, nobody looks at the precedents, you know. So, gentlemen, you've set up the. Have you been interacting with the Public Complaints Commission?
Yes, we have.
Have you looked at the job they have done?
We have even invited them separately and had discussions with them.
Because most of the.
But you are now bringing an issue which we now have to look at.
Now, because I have a contention, and I don't think it should be loud. I think that after the setting up of the Public Complaints Commission, doing the same job that the Public Petitions Committees of the House of the Legislature is doing, much of the petitions should be to the Public Complaints Commission. What we do on the floor is simply persuasive and to satisfy our citizens, to console our citizens, to strengthen our citizens, to show that we're doing something, to be a moral force, to be a force, you know. Because sometimes we have petitions that the court has delivered judgment. The agency saying that somebody should be called back to work. The agency has refused to call back the person to work, and the person comes to the National Assembly. Is it not? For petition. Now, when you have that, you have one question. There is a process for enforcement under the Sheriff and Civil Process Act. Enforcement of the judgment. Can we, as the legislature, having made the law and vested the power to interpret and enforce the law on the courts of competent jurisdiction, if the court delivers the judgment and the judgment is not obeyed, does the power of enforcement revert to us, the legislature? It does not. So it gives you, it's just a moral situation. We have in the standing orders of the House of Representatives a provision which says there is no, I think I read that, unless where there is a judicial remedy. And I said that there is almost nothing in the face of the earth which you can bring to the legislature which does not have a judicial remedy. Gentlemen and ladies, before I sit beyond my time, I want to thank you and thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the learned Senator, for this robust presentation. It's a presentation that we expect from you as somebody who has been in the legislature for a very long time as a private practitioner. Thank you once again, and I believe there will be some other remarks or questions that will be asked by the senators. Let me start with Senator Piki, because he has been raising his hands even before the presenter finishes presentation.
Thank you.
Very sorry before that. While the presentation was going on, some members came in. It's good for them to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my distinguished learned senator. I am Senator Peter Onyekachi, Deputy Chief of the Senate and a member of this committee. Thank you, my chairman.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Senator Kelvin Chukwu, representing Organised.
Thank you, presenter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and leadership, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Mine is going to be in about 3 ways: questions and also for us to look into some of their contributions again. Let me start by looking at when an issue, if a petition is raised from the public, and that petition is laid by the public petition, the floor of the assembly, or the floor of the Senate, and then Mr. President refers that petition, public petition, and if somehow is referred to Committee on Ethics and Privilege, and what normally happens in some cases, and is treated, and that outsider make contribution in that place and is found wanting, they still say that the outsider is not supposed to be tried. But meanwhile, that petition is coming from another outsider, knowing fully well that the Senate is the Senate of the people, the House of Reps is the House of the people, and now we are representing these people, trying to not directly senators. And if this such matter is handled by us and is concluded with what you are saying, it's illegality. Now, the other one again, is the National Assembly today. I don't want to believe that those that have passed through these institutions, once they are out, they will want to, like, talk about the institutions as not maybe being credible in terms of budgeting one way or the other. You are aware, since 1999, up to when we ran in 2011, 2015, entered the 7th, 8th, and 9th Assembly. The number of staff or legislative aides attached to senators, if you look at what they pass through, is just maybe the same amount of money. Now, for instance, again, looking at the budgetary side, you are talking about, budget of the National Assembly running up to about almost 1 trillion. I sit as the Chairman Senate Committee on Work. Let me also tell you, you were privileged by extension of my invite. You came to my Thanksgiving. You saw the people there. Those are the people that came for us. You can't come for a minister. These are people that came for us because they elected us across the local government of that senatorial district. What do we have for those people? So I think in trying to look at most of these things, people should also know that the legislators, they are human beings, and something how, if you pinch them, they'll be feeling it. I want to sincerely tell you that the legislative arm of government is the most suffering arm of government because we don't have any control. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we can take the comments and questions first before the response.
Thank you. The last speaker made a point that I have always been hammering every time of my life in the legislature, that we legislators are the most unpopular persons after election all over the world. It's not only Nigeria, because when the judiciary has its problem, they heap it on legislators. When the executive have their problems, they heap it on legislators. And we do not have the power of the purse to buy the press to defend us. However, because of your discussion, you made one very salient point on matters of privilege. And I have, in this Senate, something has happened that I personally feel that, excuse me sir, if you can, please, this is all to for me. Something happened that I feel it has breached my privilege and the privilege of the legislature as a whole. And what is it? I believe that the only powers I have to exercise as an elected person, as a legislator, is the power of appropriation. Unfortunately, the 2024 budget came as a military budget.
Yes.
That I, as a member of a committee, or as a legislator, or as a chairman of a committee, should not touch anything. I should just send it back as it came. I don't know whether that is confirming the phrase that we are rubber stamps, or that we are now cut and paste. Because my only powers is the power of appropriation. I should look at what is brought by the executive and amend it where appropriate and do my due diligence in all of this. But I was told not to touch it. Does that not touch on my privilege? That is question one.
They don't know anything.
Question two. Sir, I think if we listen, we will learn from what? Question two, sir, is this issue is not starting with only Tinubu government. It has been happening for some time now, that we in the legislature will pass a law that a particular office should have tenure of say 4 years, 3 years, or whatever case it might be. But when another government comes, regardless of the law available, we will remove the person that is in that office and bring another person while that person has not finished his tenure. Does that not infringe on the privileges of the legislature? I would want you to please educate us on that. And then I'm aware that any law that is made by the legislature that is inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution, that of the Constitution takes precedence. Now, the Powers and Privileges Act you have pointed out that there are some provisions that are inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Instead of allowing it to be tested by the judiciary, is it not just better to expunge them so that at least it does not make caricature of whatever is being done in the legislature? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, before then, distinguished Senator Dr. Tony King, please can you introduce yourself, even though we have only one mic here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you know I was among the first person that came here, and they have not started. So, my name is Dr. Tony Moye, representing Anambra in the Parliament State, a member of the committee. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Is it not possible that I take some of this so that we don't get lost?
Yeah.
Unless, okay.
Okay, there's another person left.
All right, sir.
Okay,
I have some questions so that you can go.
Sir, I listened very attentively to your presentation, and I must confess that there are a lot of takeaways from what you said. Yes, I'd like to benefit from your work experience. You are aware that Section 308 talks about immunity of governors and their deputies, president, and their vice. I think the wisdom in the proviso is that these people are very senior public officials that don't need to be distracted by litigations, even witch hunt. Don't you think the legislators also require such a specific proviso in the Constitution to safeguard their operations, given the complexity of the job that the National Assembly does as an institution? That is my first proposal. The second one is that the legislature as an institution has three basic functions, namely representation, oversight, and rulemaking. The rule of representation requires that the legislator connects with his immediate or her immediate constituency in a manner that their worries are supposed to be addressed while at the National Assembly. If there's an infringement in a parliamentarian's constituency and the people concerned cry to their representative, what is wrong in such a parliamentarian carrying out the duty of addressing petitions in the parliament, petitions that come from their own constituency? And then finally, sir, some of the issues that you mentioned which appear to be in conflict with the Constitution are at the bottom of the presidential system of government Nigeria is practicing, that recognizes the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature as basic arms of government. I think each of these arms of government is also struggling to have a space in both the legal, economic, and the political fabric of this country, such that none is willing to submit to the other. I agree that the judiciary has the overwhelming control in terms of rule adjudication and interpretation. But I think as a legislature, being a people's parliament, also has a role in trying to also create a space for them. That's why sometimes you see this kind of conflict coming between the parliament and the judiciary. What is your take on this, sir? Thank you very much.
That last question, I don't understand it. Each arm is going to have a space.
A space in trying to assert its yes, in the public domain.
Yeah.
Yes. The parliament, which is supposed to be the people's voice, is sometimes hamstrung by the Constitution, which is made by the parliament itself. So is there no contradiction there that requires the parliament to be given even more teeth to bite? That's the kind of concern I want to express.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Please, can we take this one
Okay.
before?
If you don't mind, just one sentence.
Let it, so that
Just one sentence.
Is it
But if the chairman insists that
not the chairman. If the
the resource person,
if the resource person,
that's one question.
Allow the leader.
Okay, the leader.
Yes, sir.
Leader, you can.
Thank you.
I also have some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, resource persons.
People are enjoying it.
Order, please. First is to apologize for my coming behind schedule. Our flight was delayed unnecessarily. My question is straight to the point of law. I want to know the probative value of the resolution of the Committee on Public Petition. To what extent can it be enforced? Thank you.
4 sentences.
Very brief.
Compliance.
My one is on 2 issues. So that you can take them at once, and then by the time you finish, we'll now excuse you. Thank you very much, learned distinguished senator. On the issue of this public complaint commission, which you have mentioned, are you guys saying that this public complaint commission is supposed to take the position of the committee on public complaints? Public petition, sorry.
Yeah.
And there is one thing I noticed, because of their vast experience in the House and the Senate, most especially the chairmanship of this Rules and Business, I found out that in the House, chairman of Rules and Business is more or less in the leadership, yes. And he's always on the first row in the House of Reps.
And the first seat.
At the first seat, because he's the advisor. The advisor to the House of Reps. But when I came to the Senate, I saw a different thing altogether. So I think there's a need for us to advise us on that. Because anything that has to do with law and any other issues and procedures in the House, the presiding officer always refer to the chairman rules and business. But this time around, the chairman rules and business in the Senate is far behind. Nobody even made reference
Dormant.
to it. Indeed, dormant.
Dormant
So
in
I
the House of
surprised.
Reps. It wasn't dormant.
In the House of Reps.
In the House of everything they refer to rules and business.
Yes.
Every time you must talk.
Anything that comes of issues.
The leader handles, or that is why the leader is a member of that committee. He does it
So I'm surprised in the Senate it's a different thing.
It's a different thing, though.
It's a different thing altogether. I think they're
The House of Reps
for
told
us
you
to
so.
advise
You
us.
are in House of Reps.
And then this issue of legislative powers and privileges. Some of the provisions there which you have said they are inconsistent with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I think there is a need for you to assist us to bring out those provisions that are inconsistent so that we can see how we can amend them, either by way of bills or motion or how do we take care of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speak on that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm elated that a short presentation could attract such reactions from distinguished senators. Thank you very much. I feel elated. Now, the first question came from Senator Mpigi, the chairman of Advocacy, that whether if a petition is raised from the public and laid on the table, whether we cannot work on it, isn't it? Whether you cannot. Yes, you can work on it. You can work on it because it has been raised and work. But it is the resolution that you bring, the recommendation that you bring, the enforceability, and what Senator when you refer to as the probative value.
Yes.
You know, you can work on it. You can bring resolution. You know, but what is the effect of that resolution? Because, like I said in my concluding presentation, when there are 3 arms of government, the legislature is to make the law, the executive is to execute the law, the judiciary is to adjudicate upon the law. When you have given the adjudicative powers to the judiciary, and it has given judgment in the matter, whether in finality or interlocutory, there is a judgment. Does enforcement of that judgment revert to the legislature that made the law? No. That is why you have the Sheriff and Civil Process Act. Yes. You know, that on the enforcement of judgments. And that is why in the standing orders of the House, it is said that any matter where there is a judicial remedy, so it becomes difficult that there is whatever you bring. That is why in my tenure as chairman of Rules and Procedures in the Senate, it was very difficult to bring up public petitions report for consideration. Why? Because most of the recommendations of the public petitions have judicial remedy. And whatever we recommend as a House, we pass as a Senate resolution, it will either lead us to court or just remain in our books. And sometimes it punishes the citizen. It punishes the citizen. I've had a situation where I've presented a petition just out of to patronize the person. A resolution is passed. The person keeps paying his way to that agency that the Senate said you should engage me. He said you should employ me. He said you should recall me. It becomes a punishment to that citizen because that institution is not bound in law. Because it is a judicial, sometimes an appeal is pending. I've had such a case in Deposit Insurance Corporation. A judicial, so the person keeps going there. After he institutes another case, punishing himself. Meanwhile, we have no power to make that recommendation. I don't know if we are communicating.
Yes.
Mwebonyi would be my witness. So it's not whatever we do in the legislature that is lawful is enforceable. Sometimes it is just to persuasive. Is to make our constituents calm down and to say, see my senator, he has presented my petition. You know, and sometimes it adds to your buga in your constituency. I did this, I did this, I did this. So,
but a follow-up question, sir.
Yes, sir.
As a professor of law, which I know you'll be in no time, what do you think that should be done so that this will go beyond persuasiveness?
Now,
yes.
Now, you have donated your powers to the Public Complaints Commission. You had donated your powers. Let me refer you to the Public Complaints Commission Act. The Public Complaints Commission Act says, an act to establish the Public Complaints Commission with wide powers to inquire into complaints by members of the public concerning the administrative action of any public authority and complaints or their officials and their matters and other matters ancillary thereto. You have, as a legislature, from 1999 to 2010, you were handling these petitions. In 2010, you now set up a body to handle all the petitions, complaints and petitions. You have excised yourself of much of the powers. I'm sure nobody has brought this ever to your attention.
That's why that's the essence of this seminar.
Yes, you had excised your
We
powers.
revisit that act, sir.
Yes. Now, and what did you do in the act? You set up 37-member commission with, this year is 24 billion you've given them. I've stated the amount with 24 billion in the year. Now, you have established an office, you built an office for them in each state. If you go to the National Universities Commission, opposite the National Universities Commission, that big imposing building is the office of the Public Complaints Commission, which is a parastatal under this committee, which you have oversight responsibility. Having donated much of your powers there, what you need to do now is that much of these things that comes, you can now refer it there. And when they do and bring a resolution, you can now bring it to the floor that on the basis of the recommendation of the Public Complaints Commission, may the Senate or the House now affirm this. Well, just for the purpose of adding weight to it. But you have donated your powers to the commission. And you have appointed one commissioner for each state. And he is screened and cleared by the national and by any department, ministry, or the federal or any state government. That is the power. Any department of any local government, any statutory corporation or public institution, any company incorporated under the pursuant to the Companies Act, any officer or servant of any of the aforementioned bodies. There shall be established a commission to the general public, so these are the bodies, these are the functions you have invested in them, which is almost all the functions of the Public Petitions Committee. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much.
Then to Piggy, again, budgeting in the legislature, talked by those outside. I want to apologize to you, means you didn't understand me. Anytime I am in the public, I never talk against the legislature. I defend the legislature because I'm a trustee of the legislature.
Yes.
No person in this country, I am the only person in this country that has the record as having the highest service in the legislature. I was an elected councillor in my local government. I was scribe of the Student Union Parliament, scribe of the Student Union University, that is the legislature, councillor in the local government, elected, then State House of Assembly, then House of Representatives, 12 years, Senator, 4 years, and then advisor to the President on the legislature. And as an advisor to the legislature, I almost always stood on the side of the legislature to defend the legislature before the executive, except in matters of political fight. Therefore, I have never and will never defend the legislature. Yesterday we had valedictory for Galina Abba. It was we that stood with Galina Abba to fight for the liberation of the legislature. And it was under him that we now had this expansion that we now have. So I can never talk down on the legislature, and I don't talk back to the legislature. What I'm talking about, the budgeting, is one thing. There are too many agencies under the National Assembly, and we are expanding it so that the money available for the legislators doing the work is no more available for the legislators to do their work. You create too many agencies which you give the money, which you would have used in doing your work and behaving the way that ministers take care of themselves, to take care of them. With respect to the staff of the National Assembly, it is better to be a deputy clerk in some cases than a member of the House of Representatives. Financial. Yes. Yes, I say because I am involved. I've seen all. I've seen all. What it is that is financial. Financial. Okay. What between the Director General and Deputy Director General of Nigerian Institute of Legislative Studies and Democratic Studies and a senator, who earns more, who has more privileges, who has more cars, who has more aids, who has more dollars to spend, who has more favor to dispense? Between the clerk to the National Assembly and the Senate President, who has more powers? It is clerk to the National Assembly. It is the deputy clerk to the DCNR, the deputy clerk of the National Assembly, depending on who is your clerk, because they normally punish him. That is why I was very glad when the Ondo State government appointed Adelami. I think Adelami was good because he was in the account department before. Yes.
He was in account and in procurement.
In procurement. So he made it there. But in the deputy clerk, office of the deputy clerk to the National Assembly is almost the worst office because they don't give you a role. So it's better to be there. So when you create all these agencies and institutions and you make the money available to them, and every time they will threaten to go on strike against you, you depreciate what is available to the National Assembly, and you don't put a lot into your own budget. So that's what I'm talking about. Because for me, how do you create a library service? Budgeting. It would almost be unpopular. Now, where the legislature is always unpopular, this is going to be power to purpose to buy the press, something breached by privilege, power of appropriation as a military. Now, the power to touch the budget. You have the power to touch the budget. I'll give you an example of under Fashola. I was advisor on National Assembly. Fashola wrote a budget which almost 30% was on Lagos, Ibadan, and Southwest. He brought it to the National Assembly. Please, I will want the chairman of Works to listen to this. Fashola drafted a budget, sent to the president. President forwarded to the National Assembly as budget of the committee. I mean, budget of the National Assembly. Yeah. And in the entire budget, 30% of it was on Southwest. And of that 30%, Lagos Ibadan was about 20% of the entire budget. And Gaya, as chairman of the Works Committee, said, no, this is not, you must spread the budget, the provisions equitably. And Fashola came and said, as governor, this is how I do my budget. And Gaya told him, can you sit down? I was governor in 1992 when you were in kindergarten. Senator Gaya, who was chairman of Works Committee, said I was chairman in 1992. I mean, I was governor in 1992. So you cannot tell me how you do your budget because you are away from the reality. This is Nigeria and not Lagos. And after that, Fashola and never was, and he was brought to be discussing the budget before he even submitted. He will make Gaya and the committee members make input before he submits it to budget office to forward to the president. Because he told him, look, I was governor in 1992. So there is nothing about being governor.
Nothing special about that.
Yes. So you have a right to touch the budget. You know?
They call it padding.
No. Yes, it was in the course of it that they say it was because of that stealing the budget and the putting that they said padding. And I told Mr. President Buhari, that there is nothing like padding, Mr. President. With respect, the legislature can make inputs to the budget, but it has to be agreed. And I said, let us forward this document to each of the ministries. Let them compare and work with the chairman, whether they have disagreement. They can now reward the budget and the details. That's how we did. So you can touch, but work with the minister of the committee. And again, we introduced a policy of front-loading.
Yes.
And you have to, as chairman of committees, you must force the ministers to sit with you for front-loading, so that they now agree with you before they make their budget. Yes. And please accept that these ministers don't even make the budget. It is the directors in the different ministries that make the budget and submit it, and lazily they will come and submit to you at their own.
Some of them are very inexperienced.
Yes.
Very young people.
So please. Please,
no, let's still come into that area. Because like the budget that came.
Yes, sorry, sir.
No, sorry, I'm saying I was almost here. No, 1 minute.
Okay, please, this is about bad roads.
Like the budget,
he will include your road.
like the budget that came in now.
Yes.
The budget was just like, please, all chairmen of committees and all committees return the budget as it came.
As presented.
As presented. And now, like for works, we almost had a budget of 1 trillion. As I'm speaking to you, it's not because of our weakness. That budget as sent from the works was the budget to return to them. None of my colleagues here can boldly make sure that there was 1 kilometer of their road in that budget. 1 kilometer.
You cannot do it.
Huh?
You have to stand up and
What
stand out.
up is the presidency. If the presidency came all out, I'm telling you this time, because I followed up and followed to the detail, presidency insisted that allow this budget.
Yeah, let me share this idea with you.
I will soon invite you for a program.
Yes.
I will
Let me
soon
share
invite
this
you
with
for a
you.
program, a retreat for works committee.
Yes, let me
all
share this with you.
contractors and all
You cannot allow it because you have account to make. I was in your village last week.
Yes.
And I said to myself that this road that had this bad gutter and this, whether it is in the federal road or not, the chairman must make it a spur, because a spur doesn't need to be in the Gazette.
Yes.
And a spur, the highest is about 5, but chairman, you can make it 10, you know, to that place, even if it's spur 1, spur 2, spur 3. I just said, look, this road in the next budget in this year, it must be there. It must be not dualized, but well done. So you don't allow it, because, and what you do is what I call front loading. I apologize, I'm going to front loading. You sit with him the chairman, the committee, and call the permanent secretary and the directors before they make their input. Because the permanent secretary, they own the budget. They are the richest people. All the houses and things that you see in Maitama and Wuse, which are being bought and brought down and raised as a plaza, are owned by the directors in the ministry, not any of you. Yes. So, yeah, the bashing comes to you. So sit and do it. Just do as Gaia did, that I was governor. Don't allow it, otherwise you'll take the shame. And there is another thing that has happened. The budget of the money that is provided by the NNPC, I had questioned it, that NNPC cannot make any provision for road work without it coming to the National Assembly.
The tax credit.
The tax credit cannot, because the National Assembly must budget for everything. And every money that comes into the revenue of the country goes into the post. And it is only the National Assembly that can budget in that post. The National Assembly, I'm sure you've heard me a few times on radio and television, that Nigeria must answer one question. Is NNPC and Central Bank the owner of Nigeria? Or is it Nigeria that owns CBN?
FIRS.
So FIRS is not as mad yet. FIRS is not, you know, go mad yet. It is NNPC and Central Bank. So you cannot allow them, as chairman of works, they must account to you what has been given to each of, and it must be shown in the budget. And you bring them, you bring NNPC, you bring Minister of Works to come and tell you how much they have given for each road and where it was budgeted for. You have to start trouble. Not trouble. You have to. You have to. And of course, that is what will give the legislature credence. The Senate President cannot do everything. All of you must stand up. I have always asked. I'm sorry.
Yes. So
your own.
Yes.
Please, I will be at your committee on this because I want to help you raise this question of NNPC and the tax credit.
No, I will very
so my question is in line with what Senator Ikeja has said. But the problem is the instruction is coming from the leadership of the Senate.
Let me tell you, let me ask you, let me tell you. The leadership of the Senate, with respect, please, I don't, with respect, the leadership of the Senate always have their own allocations and budget.
Yes.
And when they finish, they will, sometimes under our tenure, the Senate President normally had about 7 billion. But now, I think later, they have to 20 billion. Under the last government, the Senate President, Ahmad Lawan, had 29 billion in FEMA alone.
140 something billion.
It was his own budget.
What does that mean?
His own budget was over 100 billion. But in FEMA alone, he put 29 billion for FEMA in his own constituency. That is Ahmad Lawan as Senate President. So you people have to engage with the Senate leadership. Each of them has their own budget. And most of them, before the ministers complete their budget, they will take their input and in every this thing and put. So when the budget is coming with their own input and their own accommodation. And so they are trying to at the same time defend what they have put there, so that, and you don't look so much, so that you don't go to sweep up certain things. I'm sorry, I'm not inciting anybody, but I think
gradually we'll climb to that level so that we'll see more.
So you have to be strong. Please, let me go to the last one, I beg.
Just a comment. Maybe you can add to that.
Yes.
In issue of this, I think those of us that were in the 6th Assembly,
Yes.
what happened was that we realized that this exact problem on the leadership, and then there was a problem, and that was why a committee was set up to look into the budget holistically,
Yes.
and we divided it among members, and everybody became comfortable.
Yes, that is when you review the budget. You know, and you know it is because of this. In my third term in the House of Representatives, because we almost impeached the speaker over budget. Now, if you look at the provision of the budget in the House of Representatives, as stated in the rules, in the standing orders, that the hard copy of the budget must be laid on the table before it is passed. What you pass is just the frame and the figure. The chairman of appropriation, immediately you pass, goes into Hilton. He has a house in Hilton. He has in 3, 4, 5 hotels, and he has private guest house. He will carry the budget and run. 3 days he is here. The 3 days he is there. 3 days he is in another place with the secretary. You understand? And they make all the inputs and agree with the Senate leadership and House leadership. The House has its own share, the one has its own share. That is why I put in the standing orders that the details must be laid on the table. It was done once, and after that, till today, they don't do again. So you have to follow up. The people that are telling you don't touch it have put their own things there.
Is this still in our standing order?
It's not in the standing orders of the House, it's that of the Senate. It's not in that of the House. It's not in that of the Senate, it is in that of the House. I put it in the House. But in the Senate is too strong. We're almost on there now. I'll go to the question of the legislature will have passed a law that is a parliamentary office that should have tenure and remove and bring in. Well, the law that has tenure, it is not for you who passed the law. It is the person who is removed without the end of his tenure that has the responsibility. But it comes to you, if in the question of the central bank governor, that it should be supported by an address. You have to see in the address submitted by the president why he's removing it, whether he should not lose his term before the end of his tenure. So he still has a responsibility. Then immunity of governors and the legislature. My chairman. Yes, sir. My colleague, the chairman of Rules and Business. Now, you think that whether the legislature should not have governor immunity? No, sir. We should not have. We should not have.
It will be an abuse.
It will be abused. Even this one on legislative houses, powers and privileges. It was intended to clothe you with something, but it is you clothed with nothing. So it should be make us flow with our people. And you know that some people in the legislature, they don't do the work of it. They are very powerful at home. Some of us, when we go home, we carry police abuse to pursue people, pursue our opponents and so on. So we shouldn't allow that kind of power to the legislature. It will also help us to flow and be able to get votes. And if you have that immunity, you will earn more enemies in your next election. You will earn more enemies in your next election. Yeah. Infringement in the parliamentarian's constituency. Yeah. Each arm struggling to have its space. Yeah. The legislature, the judiciary is not. And when you say the provisional value, I think we've answered it. Yeah. Public Complaints Commission, the rules of the Rules and Business. The role of the Rules and Business Committee. My brother. I was the most, after the speaker, I was the most outstanding person in the House of Representatives. Yes. That is because I had roles that were bigger than that of the leader. The deputy speaker is a presiding officer. You know. Now, it is that committee is the committee of the speaker or the Senate president. So you only exercise power to the extent that they lease to you. That is why it's not a standing committee. It is a special. No, it's a special committee. Not a standing committee. So, and I discovered these days in the Rules and Business, even a little bit toward the end of the last administration, that the Rules and Business wasn't even in charge of scheduling business. Sometimes, you know, that it is the leader and the Senate president. No, the thing can kill them. The work can kill them. And you cannot be Senate president or speaker and also be able to manage the daily schedule. And some of them, I think one of them even handed over to his chief of staff. You know, when I was advisor, I think one of the administration handed over to the chief of staff to do. The work of the Rules and Business keep the floor active because he schedules the business of the day. When he schedules the business of the day, he will know the books and the laws and so on, and prepare the presiding officer and the officers for those who will speak. And he gives them idea of what they are to present. It keeps the legislature active. That cannot be done by the Senate President, who is facing calls from the Senate, from the President, the Vice President, the Governor of the Central Bank, Minister of Finance, Minister of Work, all this. He cannot. And that is why it will collapse. So I think you need to have a talk with the Senate leader, because the Senate leader, and sometimes even the Senate leader is not even in charge of scheduling the business. It's the Speaker and the Senate President. It is not appropriate, but it is a committee. It is called the Speaker's Committee or the Senate President's Committee. And when I came to the Senate, I was asked, David Mack told me he's not going to give me any other committee, that he wants me, because I just wanted to have a break, because I was almost having a mental cramp, you know. He called me and said, look, he's not giving me any other committee, that I should do this. So others are coming, I shouldn't come for committee. Are you with me? He said I shouldn't come for committee. I nearly cried, but it's okay. I think the leader then called me and told me, look, when they give you work, don't do so well so that you won't suffer this punishment.
The reward for hard work is more.
Yeah, Senator, what was his name there? Senate leader, the Senate SAN. No, Victor Ndomagba. Come here and say, when they give you work, you do all, everybody. This is why you are suffering this. We are giving you a bigger committee, better committee. But I felt, after brooding over it, I felt honored that at least I stood out and I'm asked to do this. So you just have to find a way and take back your powers. Take back your powers. I didn't have so much of the powers in the Senate, but I had a great part of it. I had at least 70–80% of the powers exercised in the House in the Senate. I didn't have 100%. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you very much.
Please, this is just in the past. In history, how come the Sheriff and the Process Act, the Sheriff Civil and Process Act, the Constitution itself, the courts, everything, even what the courts go to interpret, is done by the legislature? How come the judiciary now determines finally what is to happen?
Okay, please let me answer that, please. Please let me answer that, please. I'll be very brief.
To the extent now that they decide who should come to the National Assembly or become governor or become president.
Please let me answer that.
Constitutional mandate.
Thank you very much. I have been privileged to almost always have opportunity of delivering lecture to incoming legislators about work in the orientation. And I normally start my presentation this.
The next presenter, our resource person in the name of Dr. Adim. You are welcome. I think without any waste of time, since we have already done the introduction and other things, we will just go straight to the paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Do you want to stand up? You want to make your presentation or stand up?
Yes, sir. Since I'm a classroom teacher, sir. Distinguished senators, committee secretariat, clerk of committee and committee staff, PLAC. Let me begin first of all by thanking the committee for the privilege to engage this very important committee of the National Assembly. That is the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. Let me also thank PLAC for the opportunity to share knowledge and experience. Mr. Chairman, sir, distinguished senators, I am also a student of Parliament. I have worked in Parliament for 5 years and I researched for Parliament for 5 years before going back to the academia. And my key research area is Parliament. And one of our teachers is here, distinguished Senator Ikeja. We have met in several fora and I'm very happy to see him today. Yes, sir. And I'm very happy that he led with a very good discussion on the key role of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. He has highlighted some of the major issues I'm supposed to look into. The
especially the introductory segment of my presentation, which deals with the role of the committee. But what PLAC has asked me to do would also indirectly answer one of the turbulent matters raised by distinguished Senator Ikeja, the issue of budget of the National Assembly. And one of those who have that in mind, that the National Assembly is greatly shortchanged. I have been criticized in several fora because I've worked in Parliament and I know what comes to, especially the operations of legislative business, is far, far, far little compared to what people expect from the legislature. But people don't understand. But the reality of the matter is that the Parliament itself created that loophole. The Parliament itself created that problem. And this key presentation will tell you that unless we go back to basics and ensure that we arm legislative committees with an articulate work plan, the issue of envelope budgeting for National Assembly will continue to create or bring condemnation to it as time goes on. But with an articulate work plan, Mr. Chairman, distinguished senators, very little, because you have something to present to tell the world that this is what you are doing. The Parliament sets legislative agenda. Legislative agenda is a strategic agenda. Some key points and some key elements are there. But what of the operational agenda? Hardly do you see an in-depth operational agenda with any committee of the National Assembly. Then where would the money come from? Government money is rooted in activity. If all committees of NAS will have work plan, you put it across, no, what do we call it? No media house can criticize the operations of the Parliament because the facts will speak for itself. So I'm very happy to be here to talk on work plan. And this is the outline of the presentation. But I want to be a bit fast so that we face the main issue at stake. We'll look at what is even this work plan and what is the significance. And committee work plan, committee and strategic work plan. We will also look at structure of work plan. And what PLAC have asked me to do is not only to look at work plan, but how do you track achievement and successes in the committee, which is key. Then few takeaway for the forum as a way forward. Then I have concluding remarks. So these are key areas that Senator Ikeja has dwelt on. Can you take us back? These are few key areas that Senator Ikeja, the last slide, just touch the button, the arrow, to take us back. No, the introductory part. So leave it there. Let me drive it from here. Yes. So, Public Petitions Committee, sir, is one of the oldest and famous committee in legislature across the world. Because the issue of entertaining public petitions is the hallmark of representation. So, there are so many activities that the committee is expected to perform. The committee is a fact-finding body. You take evidence or call for documents. The committee enjoys the power to issue writ of arrest and to command persons and organizations to appear before it. The committee serves as a body, alternative body to litigation through arbitration. That means you also resolve dispute. The committee examines and inquires into matters referred by the House via recommendations to plenary, but you are not the final arbiter or decider. The committee can initiate its own inquiries and report to plenary from time to time. So on your own, you can embark on that. You also redress issues of impunity, nepotism, abuse, or unjust termination of staff without recourse to rules, procedure, and terms of employment. The committee delegates powers to subcommittee, except the power to report directly to the plenary. And that will also form part of what I will advise this committee to do. The work of the Public Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions Committee is a very big one. Until you have subcommittees, the chair and members cannot easily attend to the matters or responsibilities of this committee. And right from House of Representatives to the Senate, this has shown clearly over the years. And you can attest to it by the level of attendance of distinguished senators that are part of this forum. But if you try to segment some petition areas and say this person handle this person handle this, so that whenever you people meet, then you deliberate on the key responsibilities you give the person to handle. It will speed up the work of the committee. If you also refer cases, okay, cases are also being referred upon approval of the plenary to Public Complaints Commission, and I'm very happy that Senator Ita Enang have handled this matter clearly here. Look at the legal aspect of it, where most of the responsibilities of the committee have been pushed to the PCC, Public Complaints Commission. Yes, you also oversight agencies under the committee's jurisdiction. You monitor budget, expose corruption, waste, and inefficiency. Yes, you also play a quasi-judicial role. And what I mean by that is that a thoroughly investigated matter by this committee may be admissible in the court of law. If you meet a judge who don't want to waste time, and you as committee has handled this matter and handled it procedurally in such a way that he is satisfied by it, he will not call for witnesses again. He will just adopt the resolution of the parliament and say on the basis of that resolution he passed judgment. So this is one key role and responsibility that the committee plays. So etc., etc. So if you look at the entire work of the committee, you will realize that there is so much to be achieved. But what is this strategic plan that PLAC has asked me to discuss? Strategic plan is not far away from this legislative agenda that we have in the parliament. But like I have said at the opening of my discussion, of my presentation, strategic plan hangs in the air if you don't have a work plan. So year in, year out, each session, each parliament will come and say legislative agenda, legislative agenda. What are the tactical means of ensuring that that legislative agenda is achieved? It's not there. So this is a very big gap. But when we talk of a strategic plan, that is what it involves. These are the key role or key functions of a strategic plan. It defines vision, mission, establishes realistic goals, prioritize objectives, mechanism to achieve them, resources to win over, set baseline to measure progress, and serve as a guide for the development of a work plan. So let's look at work plan. What is this work plan that we're talking about? It is a document that specifies major activities of a group in terms of its sequence, objectives, outcome, timing, responsibility, projected cost, etc., etc. So it is a detailed accounting of how a group, a legislative committee or subcommittee, or persons in committee propose going about accomplishing a task. So basically that is what a work plan is all about. And since I'm a student of parliament, definition of concept are key to us. That is why I have to take us through this, but we'll look at it in a more elaborate manner when we go a little further. So it serves as an outline of a set of goals and processes by which a team can accomplish these goals, offering the reader the scope, benefits, implications, or cost, persons responsible for tasks, tracking tool, etc., etc. And simply put, it serves as a picture of how a committee work or project is articulated or outlined and how it will be achieved at a glance, which makes it easy to monitor progress or failure or inefficiency. So what is the significance of having a work plan? I have itemized a few. One, in the standing orders of the Senate, the role of this committee is clearly outlined. There is also a legislative agenda. Without work plan, the issue of having roles, responsibilities to perform without tactical mechanism of achieving them have created a gap between the role and responsibilities of the committee and the outcome or the result of the work of the committee. Two, I have spoken about this legislative agenda that we keep. Each parliament or government will have an agenda. Public servants have a way of having their own policy statement or strategic plan or work plan to know how they bring about issues that are geared towards the activities they are supposed to perform or the responsibilities they are supposed to deliver. Then they vote money into them. So they find it easy to have money and access money. But in the legislature, that is not the case. So work plan also serves as a reference document on committee operations. If you have a committee and there is no work plan, What do you refer to from time to time? Everybody will just say, no, this is the jurisdiction of the committee. This is the jurisdiction of the committee. What of the operational plan of the jurisdiction of the committee? It's almost at zero. I stand to be corrected, Mr. Clark. I don't know whether you have a committee work plan. A detailed committee work plan, projected cost for the year. That is it. So it's virtually in most committees of the National Assembly, from Senate to House of Representatives. Also, donor agencies guide for support. If you have work plan, PLAC, Oxfam, Action 8, if they want to assist you, the first thing they will ask you is, what do you intend to do? And what will be the result? What is the cost? So if you have work plan, you will just give them the document and go and sit down. For the entire year, development partners will just come study your work plan. They will see them in your office telling you they want to handle activity A, B, C, D, E for you. But without the work plan, it's what we call just an accidental meet. To tell them, no, this is what you want. And they will say, no, this is how they want to do it, or this is how they can assist you to achieve it. So work plan addresses that problem. And if you have work plan, right from the beginning of the development of the work plan, you will see key challenges of the committee. So in developing a work plan, it exposes likely challenges of the committee at the front level, before you even begin the operations of the committee activities. And it also creates room for best practices or lessons for improvement. Because developing a work plan means that you have to learn from other jurisdictions. What is happening there? What can you localize here? So work plan helps you to achieve that. Work plan also serves as an instrument for administrative and financial management stroke reports. The committee chair or deputy committee chair or members of the committee cannot easily say clearly what committee secretariat is doing to support the role of the committee. But if there is a work plan, responsibilities will be outlined, and each and every staff in the committee or members of the committee will have something to do or something to say in respect of one particular role or responsibility. If they don't do it or discharge it effectively, the work plan will expose them. And if you want to maybe report, is it sessional or quarterly or whatever report in the parliament, if you have a work plan, it will not take more than 20-30 minutes. That report can be developed. So that is what work plan aids us to achieve. Another thing is that it stimulates legislative responsibility through division of labor. Each person in a committee will have a role to play. The legal officer, the research officer, the secretary, and others. So if you have a work plan, these key roles and responsibilities will clearly be outlined for them to deliver. Then it is a tool for monitoring and evaluation. Mr. Chairman, sir, distinguished senators and committee secretariat, in the 21st century, anything that is not measured does not exist. Any activity you do, that at the end of the day, after 6 months, 1 year, you will not say that this is what you have done, this is what you have achieved. That activity does not exist. Immediately after Senator Ikeja announced presentation, PLAC sent a form for everybody to fill that they want to get the report back. That is what they will use to measure whether this thing carries meaning or not. How do we do it at the committee level? How do most committees of NAS do this kind of activity? So work plan serves as a monitoring and evaluation tool. Then work plan also set formal benchmark, so it gives room for improvement. If you do A, B, C, D, and you have failed in 2 out of 3, then you begin to ask yourself, why did you fail? How do you go about correcting it? That is one key role and responsibility that the work plan plays. And it also allows for objectivity, Mr. Chairman, sir. Objectivity in the sense that when you lead a parliamentary committee, there are politics of running the committee, there are politics of running the secretariat. Some members of the committee will come to blame you that you're not giving them role or responsibility. But at the beginning of the development of the work plan document, you will share responsibility. If somebody comes to ask you and say, no, you have not given me, you have said that one that I gave you, where did I succeed? So it allows the chairman to lie down and manage committee without problem. Even the secretariat or the clerk of the committee, if the staff is not performing, they will know from the very action or inaction of activities in the work plan. So it will make you inject very active staff into the committee or it will make you take some senators serious, others, you keep them by the side even as they are committee members. So work plan gives room for that objectivity. And the chairman runs away from unnecessary accusation from people, because work plan have defined whether these people are really doing the work or not. So, etc., etc. These are some of the key significance of having a work plan. Let's now begin to go a little technical into the structure of a work plan. In developing a work plan, these are the key issues or key information that are needed. At the narrative structure of opening a work plan document, you will give a narrative context of the legislature in terms of the federal government policy, in terms of legislative agenda, in terms of standing orders of the committee. When you have that, you review the activities of the committee in the past, where they have failed and where they have succeeded and what you can add. Then what are the main objectives of that work plan? You clearly define it. What are the deliverables or output you expect? You define them, you bring them open. What may likely be the expected outcome of the implementation of that work plan? You clearly spell it out. Then the kind of methodology or strategy you will adopt to achieve the aim of having that work plan, you also bring it out. Then you have work plan proposals, which will come in table or template, which I will try to give a few examples here. Then at the end, you have the operations of the work plan. So what are the elements that are needed in that table that I have spoken? One, the activity to be conducted. It means, take for example, the work to be carried out. We say 2 days retreat for Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition to develop petition template. Then you have description of that activity. 2 days retreat of Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions to develop petition template for investigative hearing and lawful dismissal from service to be held in Lagos. You have described the activity. Then objectives. You define clearly what the activity seeks to achieve. Take for example, you say to build template that will be used to input petitions for ease of consideration. You have clearly said the objectives of that activity. Then what will be the outcome at the end of the day? The outcome is the results that comes out from that activity. You can say enhance petition management. So petition management in that committee have been and will be enhanced with this particular activity. Then facilitator, who would push this activity to actualization? It may be committee clerk, research officer, committee secretary, etc. You spell them out in the work plan. Then time frame, when do you expect the activity to finish? Maybe it may be a quarterly activity within a particular quarter. In this example, maybe we say 3 months, between April to June 2024. Yes. Then responsibility, who will be responsible clearly? We say maybe committee chairman, committee clerk, as the case may be. Or if there is a subcommittee, that subcommittee may be responsible for that activity. Then you also bring out a proposed budget. That is the cost. That is, but where necessary. If you don't know, you can easily put to be decided. Then remarks or tracking tool or checkbox. This is added in some documents or work plan. You don't see this. This is added because that is what PLAC have asked me to also add to speak on. In the sense that how do you track it at the end of the day? And I have a template to show you how you can easily track activities in the work plan. It can be embedded in the work plan. It can be separated from the work plan as a separate document for the committee chair or committee members to track their activity. So in the activity column, maybe if a work is in progress, you can say in progress, due date, you can say completed, you can say ongoing, you can have no donor support, you can say not started at all, yet to commence, and so on, depending on the complexity of the activity or what the committee wants to achieve with that activity. So you outline a grading system for it so that at the end of the day, when you sit down, you finish activity, you tick. Between January to March, you have not done this activity, you say no funding support. So when you come to tabulate at the end of the year or at the end of the session, why has so-so activity not worked? The results will easily come out clearly to you. Then next year, it will make you to plan ahead of time to see how you can achieve that activity. So I give a tabular presentation of it here. Yes, you can see. No, take us back. Take us back, the first sample. Take us back again. Take us back. Yes, this one. Yes, okay, leave it. Let me drive it from here. So, Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges and Public Petition, 2024 work plan, January to December. You can see the first activity there, 2 days retreat to develop petition template, description of the activity, the objectives of that activity, the expected outcome, who will be the facilitators, who are the key people responsible for that activity, what is the time frame, and what is the likely budget. Mr. Chairman, sir, if every committee of NAS will develop this kind of instrument from January to end of the year, then there is no any reason for media people to be criticizing the money National Assembly is spending. But if you don't have instrument, people will criticize when they see billions of naira. So that is where the trouble of NAS is coming from. And I think this work plan, if it will be institutionalized, it will help address series of criticisms that is encroaching in the prestige and the good work that NASA is doing. So this is just sample 1. Sample 2. This is the remark or tracking or check box column, which can equally be added. It's not different from the first one. This one says, yes, activity, 2024 stakeholder mapping for committee engagements. Description of the activity says 2 days technical meeting of mapping of stakeholders for invitation, assigning of officers for research and analysis and development of cost implication for 2023 committee work, for example, in Uyo Akwa Ibom. These are the objectives of the activity. This is the expected outcome, facilitators, responsibility column, time frame, budget, and also a checklist. So with this document, if the chairman wants to see after about 3-4 months whether the committee is doing well or not, he will just look at the checklist. And when you bring an ICT person, this checklist itself can be easily deduced and analyzed for you. It will be posted regularly on a monthly basis to the chairman to see whether the activities embedded in the work plan are going on well or not. And the chairman can easily see whether he is performing or not, whether the secretariat is working or not, whether distinguished senators or members of the committee are also discharging key responsibilities assigned to them in the committee or not. So this is just a picture of it. Then this one, if you don't want too much of the activity like is being enumerated, you just want the tracking box. The activity will be there, responsibility will be there, time frame will be there, budget will be there, tracking tool will be there, and at last, the chairman can give his remarks at the column, at the last column. So this can serve as a very good tracking template for the activity of the committee. So depending on the complexity, capacity, and willingness of the committee to adopt or develop a work plan, these key templates can be used, and they are not cast on stone. They can be transformed to suit the operations or activities of the committee. All right. Yes, move it. Are you, it's not moving. Move it with an arrow, let's see. No, move it. Beyond this, it's not going. No. Maybe your system of hand, okay? Stop the slide presentation, then move to the next page. Go to slide 15. No, go to slide 15, where it shows you number. Slide 15. Yes. So challenges, Mr. Chairman, sir. And I begin. 1. Work plan is easier said than done. One has to do with technical capacity. It's not something that can just be built anyhow. But the reality of the matter is that 21st century legislative committee must be managed with some degree of capacity to deliver. Because people ask too much, and
And I think somebody raised that matter in the last presentation of Senator Inan. So the technical capacity of the Secretariat must be high enough to be able to deliver on that kind of responsibility. Because the Parliament is a very complex setting. On a daily basis, you change rules of engagement, laws of the society. So this committee must also be dynamic enough to have technical people that will move it to the next level. And I said, e.g., the use of ICT, knowledge of the nature of petitions, spatial template to accommodate all manner of ethical issues or petitions. So innovation is the key. So there must be key people who should be able to drive the committee in that regard. The next one is resistance. Once you begin to bring the issue of work plan, those who are sitting on certain things that will promote accountability will not like it. Those who are sitting on key billions of naira, either at the clerk office or whatsoever, will say that this money is now going to committee and committee chairman. There will be trouble. There will be resistance. But just like Senator Ikeja has said, people must fight it out. Committees must be fully funded. How can the Committee of National Assembly be receiving quarterly money of 400,000 to 500,000 naira to manage its affairs? Some of us have kept complaining about that. I don't know what is the quarterly allocation now. Mr. Clark, what is the quarterly allocation to your committee?
1 million.
Eh?
It's monthly.
Monthly, how much?
950.
950. Clark, even if it is you that travel to Abuja or Kano and come back, that money is finished in a year, in about a week. So that is where we are getting it problematic with the Nigerian people in terms of management committee operations. Committees are not really funded to deliver on their responsibilities. And it is these committees that report back to plenary. So this is another key matter. Then poor facilities. I don't know, but I learned that now NAS is doing far much better. Within the vicinity, you can touch button and access the internet. I don't know how true it is. In the last 2 months, I have not entered NAS. So, but I know there are facilities, but some of them are not functioning as they should. So poor facilities also affect that. Another challenge is that the job of the ethics, privileges, and public petitions, Mr. Chairman, sir, is a very big responsibility. But there is low-level support and action to uplift the committee. What the committee is, the famous and one of the most important committees of all legislators across the world.
That is why you see few senators here.
That is it. So that is it. But the responsibility in that committee is much, sir. Considering petitions, everybody will just bring petition, done, petition, done. So there is it's a big responsibility for low-level support and action. Another key area is the funding. The funding of the committee, like I have said earlier, is poor. And that will continue to weaken it for some time. But I said funding is a universal problem. What of the little that has been gotten? How have we used it? We also need to say it out, because that justifies for you to look for more money. Then staff motivation is a big responsibility. Any staff working in that committee cannot be operating with the mentality of public service payment. I have researched for Parliament. I cannot count how many times we have requests to either analyze a bill with my Oga. I cannot count how many times we have slept in the office till in the morning. And up to date, if we have key jobs like that, we take time off, retire in a hotel, work throughout the night, and submit our report to senators and members of House of Representatives that are interested. So, but that person doing the work must be motivated. Like the popular saying, to whom much is given. So, and most of the pay of especially staff of the National Assembly is a take-road pay. It's not a take-home pay. It finishes on the roadside before they reach their houses. Not even at Sahar stores, but probably at one small kiosk by the road. So staff motivation is also key. Team spirit too, especially among the senators and also members of the committee. It's not a work that people will do in isolation, no. It's a work that everybody must bring his contribution to the table. It needs sacrifice, it needs commitment. Another key area is production of reports. Report is the hallmark of parliamentary committee. Any parliamentary committee that does not produce report from time to time is just a committee that is hanging there. Yes. And I know most of the time, very few committees of NAS, and especially even the Public Petitions Committee, turn out reports from time to time. Only probably lions like Senator Ikeja, who are always there working tirelessly when he was in House of Reps. But even at that, I know there is challenge. I don't know this guy, what do they call him? Mike. I don't know, Mike worked under you too.
Yes.
Yes, if you see Mike, he look at times, so most of the time, very disturbed. Because he has to walk and walk and walk.
Charles Adebayo.
So it has no opening or closing time
Then
if you work in this committee.
Charity and all of them.
A few of them. All right. So production of reports is key, and it's a very serious problem in NAS. Then another thing has to do with monitoring and evaluation. It's a key challenge. Few effort is being put to monitoring and evaluation, not only in this committee, in virtually most operations of NAS. I don't know. I've never seen any in-depth report of M&E of the National Assembly in about 5, 6, or 10 years ago. And that is a great cause of concern to especially some of us who are students of Parliament. Then unforeseen circumstances, external factors. When you begin to develop work plan, there may be so many other factors that you don't take for granted that will come to serve as very serious impediment to the operations of the committee. So these are some key challenges of the development of work plan for the ethics, privileges, and public petitions. These are my few takeaways to the forum. Yes, I said there is need for team spirit, there is need for periodic review of work plan. Work plan is not cast on stone. You develop it today, challenges will come up, you say, okay, within the committee, remove this, we may not be able to achieve this target in the year. Let's reduce it to what we can carry. Another way forward is also partnership and networking with experts, CSOs and others, just like PLAC, Oxfam, Action Aid, DFID, UK Aid and others. The gateway to a committee on public petitions is very wide. Very few of these bodies you will go to them and say you need money and they will not give you. But you must have your work plan. You must work fast before they accept you and throw away their dollars at you. Then capacity building for MPs and staff. Parliament is the home of training, Mr. Chairman, sir. Every day there is need for senators, members of the committee to be trained and trained. Parliament is also the home of innovation. So there is need for training and retraining and retraining. This thing has hung again. It's freezing. There is also need to imbibe on improving the visibility of the committee. The committee may decide to say that they dedicate a particular day or a particular week that people or celebrations or activity or ceremonies will be done in NAS completely to reflect the operations or major responsibilities of the committee in NAS. I have not seen that happening. The committee need to bring it on board. You dedicate a particular week from Monday to Friday. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. You can even do, what do they call this, road work to bring it up on Nigerians that if they have key issues that is disturbing them, they can lay it before the committee. And another key area is also being realistic in terms of developing the work plan. Work plan is something that is being developed to be achieved. So the committee should not be over-ambitious to develop work plan running into trillions or billions of naira. Yeah. They should look at what is feasible, what can be achievable, so that you propose it and build up a task and build up resources that are needed to support the committee operations. Then, in building a committee work plan, there is need for the committee chair, deputy chair, and members of the committee to agree with the leadership of the parliament, agree with other MPs too of the committee, and also staff before assigning responsibilities, so as to consider workload and also the schedule of people working in that particular committee, either as chair, deputy chair, member of committee, or member of committee secretariat. And after building a work plan, or after developing a work plan, there is need to have a critique session, so that you come and sit in a forum of this nature, and the work plan will be critically appraised, reviewed, and to look at gaps where necessary so that it can be filtered. To look at areas that you are over-ambitious in the work plan so that it can be removed. And when you do that, you make the work plan flow smoothly because key stakeholders must have contributed in the work plan, and it will make the work plan flow with very much ease to the committee. Then training and retraining, which I have said earlier. Parliament is the home of training. Parliament, you train today, new innovation comes up. So there is need to continue training and retraining of staff of Parliament. And I have this as concluding remarks. I said the success of a legislative committee in the 21st century is largely determined by the development, adoption, implementation, and monitoring of evaluation of a strategic work plan. This is especially so for the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions, which is expected to serve as a model in addressing injustice and a leader in the promotion of probity, accountability, fairness, protection of citizens' rights, etc., etc. The development of strategic or work plan may not only make the work of the committee easier and result-oriented, but will significantly strengthen the promotion of peace, order, and good governance in Nigeria. Mr. Chairman, distinguished senators, committee secretariat, and PLAC, I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for a job well done. A very good and robust presentation. The paper was well presented, and even though it appears to be not anything, it appears to be technical. But it is one of the things that will promote the activities of any committee that is willing and ready to work for the Senate or for the Parliament, and as well for the entire society. Thank you once again. We really appreciate this very robust presentation, and I believe some of the senators, more particularly this workshop is supposed to be done. I mean, it's supposed to be directed at the secretariat, because they are supposed to be more educated in respect of this work plan. Because they are supposed to produce the work plan, present it before the committee, and the committee must look into it and accept or make some comment or observation in respect of the work plan that is being presented. Thank you very much. I believe, Doctor, we really appreciate what you have done, and possibly there will be some remarks or questions from the members of the committee. I think most distinguished senator Ogunnaike wants to start.
Mr. Chair, distinguished Chair, and distinguished colleagues, resource persons, thank you very much, Doctor. My first question is, in addressing the challenges, you mentioned some of the powers that the committee has, including the writ of arrest. And then, mentioning the challenges, you talked of external forces. External forces in this regard will not only mean powers that be within the executive arm, but within the legislature. I'm going to talk from my experience. When I was chair House Committee on Industry, when I was in the House of Reps, I had a case I was investigating, and when we started, the agency concerned was very panicky and was trying to reach us at all costs, but we were determined to get to the bottom of the matter. Somehow they disappeared. They were no longer picking our calls. They were no longer responding to our communications. And then when we investigated, we found out that some principal officers or the leadership of the House were interested, and they had called the agency to report progress, and they were no longer listening to us, and we didn't have a chance, no matter how hard
didn't see the light of the day. Light of the day. When we were trying to ask for the rate of arrest, since they were not responding to us, the matter died a natural death because we were told to stop the investigation of the arrest. So, as members of the committee, how will you advise us to deal with such a situation? My question number 2 will be just a matter of semantics.
Yes, sir.
In tracking progress, I saw work in progress and ongoing. What's the difference between the two? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman and my distinguished colleagues, the resource persons, my older brothers and sisters from the other side of the divide. Let me just begin by very profusely commending a resource person for doing justice to this topic. I would rather than I would recommend that you have an interface with the entire leadership of the Senate on this idea of work plan. When we came on board, we heard that the House of Reps had designed their legislative agenda. And one or two senators approached me that, oh, we should have done the same thing in the Senate. But up to now, the idea has died in its origin. And I think what you have told us today, if we extrapolate it to the entire leadership of the House, setting the legislative agenda and then coming out with a work plan for the entire Senate, it will give us direction on what to do at what point in time, and then we will be able to assess ourselves after 4 years as to how far we have done. So I would like to invite you to maybe do a proposal to the National Assembly leadership, especially to the Senate segment of mass. It is knowledge, not limited to us at the Committee of Ethics. It should be a general program or project of the entire 10th Senate. Because actually, with what you have just told us in one hand, I feel that we have not started at all. At the end of the day, even we ourselves will not be able to, determine our progress, or will not be able to measure our performance during this 10th Assembly. So that would be my plea to you. Thank you very much.
Let me also share an experience of what distinguished Senator now has just mentioned in respect of this interference. I remember in the 6th Assembly, I was the Deputy Chairman of the Ethics and Privileges Committee. There was a case we were handling that time. And because of the interest the leadership had at that material time, and we insisted on going on with the matter, what happened was that the committee was dissolved.
I wanted to draw that attention.
The committee was dissolved. Let us dissolve us. Because we insisted on going on with the case. The committee was dissolved and another committee was dissolved. And so, what can you say to that? The committee was dissolved for minimum.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think let me begin from the chairman. In all legislatures across the world, you cannot escape this issue of interest. Even in developed democracies, there are instances where leadership wants this direction. It's only when where you're sitting, that is when you see the trouble and problem. And there are issues that really don't go to committees first. Some very crafty organizations or bodies, before they even approach committee, they approach leadership. They will discuss issues thoroughly with them. And they will even be the ones to tell them the strategy they will adopt in meeting the committee. But where things are getting too difficult, they should come back to them again.
MTN. I'm sure you remember the MTN.
I was the one who handled that matter.
So I think moving forward, Parliament is a home of innovation. And especially, this also linked up to this issue raised by the question before is indirectly linked to what the chairman is saying, that the power of leadership in the entire matter, what you said. So you must innovate. Where there are problems and issues and you really want to deal with it, to some extent, or even stop it, there are very active development partners that you can also work with to link facts to them. Because facts speaks for themselves. And where there is too much pressure, even leadership will withdraw and ask you to go and settle with these people. Because the pressure now will not be within the parliament alone. It will be coming from outside. Then you will pretend as if you don't also know. The fire will be from outside. Most of the pressure you have seen in the polity, they are also sponsors. Different interests. So I think that strategy can be adopted. And you know, in politics, you can't easily stop that. If you're sincere enough, another person is not. So you will always see this problem, especially in the developed world, in the developing world. But you must, as a committee or as somebody leading the committee, develop innovative mechanisms that when A falls, you will adopt B. So even right from the first day, if you know you have taken a fight, begin to develop strategy that what if this thing comes from the presidency, what will you do? What if it comes from the Senate president, what will you do? What if it is an attack from CSOs? How can you mitigate it too? Because CSOs too can fight against facts. They may bring superior arguments, but they may not be equal to the kind of facts you have on your table. So this one, you have to look at options and see how you can bail yourself out from it. Then this issue of monitoring and evaluation, it is key. Why NAS is finding it so bad? NAS have not performed bad since from 1999 to now. But accountability mechanism of NAS is very poor. So that is why people find it easy to criticize NAS. That this envelope budgeting, you say your budget is this, the whole world is telling you you are the father of accountability. Open your book for us to see, and you cannot open it. So it brings suspicion. But if in reality, the billions of naira said to be budgeted on NAS will be used on the very activities that NAS is established to deliver, that money is too small. Committees know what it takes. Senators don't have cars to drive. It's because these activities cannot easily be spelled out for the entire world to see. Committees such as the Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions can have 5 retreats in a year. If you mold the amount of 5 retreats in a year into a work plan, tell me how much it will cost the committee. They will run into 400-500 million naira for committee operations alone. Not to talk of public hearing, not to talk of entertaining, addressing issue of petitioners, not to talk of addressing, attending workshops abroad for chairman and committee or 2 or 3 committee members, not to talk of initiating your own inquiries. So if you take most of these activities, put them in a work plan. This committee should be thinking of 4, 6, 7, 8 billion naira per annum. And the activities will be very clear that nobody can easily argue against it. Because the objectives will be clearly stated. The outcome will be clearly stated. The budget will be clearly stated. And the time frame for that activity. So if money don't come, you have every right to also call media. You want us to address public injustice in the polity. But look at, we have budgeted about 9 billion naira. At the end of the year, only 200 million naira come to this committee. How can you get justice in Nigeria? Then you allow media people to go and make their trouble out there. But NAS must devise mechanism of not allowing the public to measure its performance. It should measure its own performance and make public statement on its achievements than just a hearsay. And 21st century does not give room for that. This issue of work in progress, ongoing. If take for example a committee, a bill is referred to a committee, and that bill referred to a committee have been referred to a committee, have reached the committee, but there was no public hearing on that particular bill. And you are planning to have public hearing on it. You are planning probably to invite people. You are planning even to do stakeholder mapping You are planning to maybe get stakeholders' contribution and engage. You can say, okay, this activity is still ongoing. But if you say work in progress, it may be that it may be a lengthy period of time that you have designed the activity, you have planned its implementation mechanisms, but that activity have not come to fruition. You are still looking for partners that will give it support. So the language may look similar, but within the context of parliament, it can be different. So it is a work in progress. It may run up to the end of the year. A bill may run within a short time frame, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months, but it is ongoing, it has started, it has not finished. But you're expecting probably it will be finished. But if you say in progress, it may even fall within the rubric of what we say, part of what you have agreed to deduce the legislative agenda into your own work plan. And it's an activity that may even finish at the end of the parliament. Above all, what I want to say is that the parliament with work plan can easily produce its legacy report. NAS have not been producing legacy report. At the end of every assembly, what NAS normally do is to say you have passed total number of this bill. You have passed total number of this. What of the ones rejected? Why were they rejected? What of some of the key activities that were performed? One major, this major body is the one that have stabilized our democracy to where it is today. When the doctrine of necessity, is it not NAS that helped to achieve that? So many other things. Electoral reform. People may say our elections are bad, but if you look at where we have started to where we are today, so many things have changed. And look at now, just opposite us here, is there no activity of electoral reform taking place? Is it not NAS? So many other things. Niger Delta Act, is it not NAS? It's NAS, if not, it was rejected by Obasanjo. But total majority of NAS passed it. And the benefit of that passage is, despite the accusation of corruption and others, is much more better than if that bill was not passed into law. Because it has taken so many things to the people of Niger Delta, and it has helped stabilize series of other things that will have even caused the division of the country. So NAS have achieved so much, but it's not talking because it is not backed by documents. And 21st century activity means that you must produce something that will stand at the time of this twist here, twist there. They will also bring out another aspect of it or angle of it. But all that is needed in this committee is that it should provide some level of fairness to Nigerians. Because democracy itself is built on that basic tenet of ensuring that people get their fair share, people get fair justice, people get what they deserve within the polity. And I would not like to conclude by saying that 100% those who petition the committee have, even as they don't get redress, does not mean that the committee is not working per se. No, the committee is working. The committee is injecting some degree of fairness into the system, but it needs to do more. It needs to bring out its name, but it needs to be more visible to people and find a mechanism to ensure that people approach the committee with much ease. And it's not that you must even, like the issue of arbitration, for example, you can easily settle dispute. You agree on this, you balance this one, and they go, all of them will be happy. And Parliament has some degree of power to tell the head of an MDA, no, drop this matter. Informally, so many things can be addressed. So many things can be addressed without really saying that you are to be blamed or taken back. You can settle many disputes within the wall of this committee. But above all, I want us to take what Ikeja has said in the morning about the powers that has been given to the PCC, Public Complaints Commission, in relation to the powers of this committee. But however, that does not mean that the PCC should die of no. You should look at how you balance the activities of this committee with the role of the PCC, because the spread and manpower they have, you don't have. So look at some strategic powers you can give yourself, since they are under your jurisdiction, to ensure that you give directives that will flow, and people will know that it is NAS that is supporting the PCC to achieve this. Through that, this committee will promote peace, order, and development in Nigeria. I thank you once more.
Thank you very much. Oh, Clark, you have something to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I want to talk with
first one is this, what do you call it, cross-breeding of functions between PCC and the committee. You know, this democracy is like we borrow it from somewhere. And before we borrow it, those people, those clients, they have practiced it for over 200, some of them for over 200 years. So definitely there are some international best lessons or global best practices that we can learn from them. The function of the committee is to ensure protection of civil liberties and constitutional rights of citizens. So also against administrative injustice. By virtue of the PCC Act, they perform the same functions, but the functions are not mutually exclusive. Because if you look at the section 62 of the Constitution, it gives the National Assembly the power, or the chambers of the National Assembly the powers to constitute committees of their members and give them certain, either specific or general issues to consider as those issues arise. So the power of the committee, this committee, is derived from the Constitution, whereas that of the PCC is derived from the PCC Act. So they are not mutually exclusive. I think they ought to have been complementary to each other. That is one. Then, because from advanced democracy, you see the legislature serves as the ombudsman of the legislature, whereas the PCC serves as the ombudsman of the executive. So I think they should work side by side. So the only thing now, because most people are not aware of the functions and duties of the PCC. That is why they always run to National Assembly as an alternative. Because as it is, it was on the media that the PCC, they want to go on strike. Because they don't, in their budget, they don't even have the money to pay for their salaries that was approved for them by National Assembly. Let alone discharge other mandates that is described in their act. Then the second issue is this issue of executive resistance and grandstanding and impunity from the government MDAs and from the multinational corporations. So I will want to ask, can't we do like in the area of budget conservation? Do you think that bringing in an innovation like Legislative Reorganization Act that will compare the procedures, the processes in National Assembly, this international, global best practices, so that wherever necessary we make amends and back it by law. So that irrespective of who is the principal or presiding officer, or what his interest is, at least the Legislative Organization Act has clearly stated what a particular procedure should be or ought to have been. And the public or the civil society organization can now use it to benchmark the performance of the particular committee or to benchmark the performance of a particular chamber. The second is this issue of letting or making our activities known. Do you think that it is possible to leverage on ICT to make our activities or make our presence known to the general public?
Thank you.
Even though we are supposed to be seated here as well with television.
Okay, that's all right.
I want to go back to Professor Ena's response to some of the issues raised concerning the rates of arrests. Like when the national agenda was recognized, yes, because I think that should be given a very serious consideration. That even if it has to be a committee that's created to execute some of those functions of enforcing the resolutions of the National Assembly, both at the House of Reps and the Senate. Because I remember in one lecture that I gave from 2017 that there is nowhere, anywhere in the National Assembly that there will be no resolution or solutions to issues. I remember that lecture very well, which means it gives answer to all
enforcement is key. And without enforcing some basic rules, some of these impunity exercised by, institutions of government can only be curtailed because the National Assembly remains the only very solid pillar in our democracy. And so Dr. Umar and Prof should be able to give us solution to that right now because the chairman.
Let me just.
What is the work of the legislative compliance?
That's what I want to say. That's why we set up. I established the Legislative Compliance Committee, and it was because.
Sorry, we'll give you the mic. Let me just add this question. The issue of this issuing of warrant of arrest. You see, I want to believe I have a dilemma. Can the committee at its own, the chairman or the committee, can they issue warrant of arrest against, or do you have to seek permission from the court? Not court. From the leadership.
Yes. It has to process it, and you said it, and it goes to leadership, and they will issue it.
Oh.
If they will not discuss it, like you said, or they will not dissolve your committee. Thank you so very much. I want to say that for enforcement of legislative decisions, we had to pass several resolutions, and they were not enforced. And the legislature, the executive, were ignoring us. Now, so in 2004, in making the rules, we established a committee on legislative compliance. The job of the Legislative Compliance Committee was to follow up on legislations on resolutions of the House. Now, in the course of it, we also found out that most of the things we decided should be done as resolutions were not enforceable. Because, for instance, you say they should go and make a road, the House has decided, and it's a resolution. Then you did not put it in the budget. And so where are they going to use it to go and do the road? Again, some of the decisions you've said you should enforce. There is, some of the things you say should be done. There is already an existing body that is charged with the responsibility of doing it. So when the committee goes, the agency will show him that they are complying with this law, which you also, the legislature, made. So it became very difficult. So Legislative Compliance Committee has a very serious task of getting its decisions enforced, because most of the things we pass in the legislature are not enforceable. Please let me go to something. I wanted to commend the chairman and the committee because of the National Assembly. I know it is not usual for a committee on public petition on ethics and privileges to have such large number of attendance of members at a function, at a retreat like this. They rarely come. So thank you very much for being able to do such a coordination that they are able to come. We had that same committee problem in the Rules and Business Committee in the House of Representatives. When people come and they say it's not a juicy committee, so we decided to buy more juice for our committee and then take picture that this is a juicy committee. That's what we did in Rules and Business Committee.
It was all rules, no business.
No, in fact, there was a time that Gabriel Suswan was the chairman of Armed Services, then later Corporation, then later Power. So we said that I am in charge of rules. Suswan has taken the business. But everything that made money was handled by Suswan. So I handle rules, Suswan handled business. Please let me conclude on this matter. The work plan and I would want to advise the committee, the clerk is here and the chairman is here. You can do like Farouk Lawan. You can make it, you know him. If you give him broom, committee on broom, he will enjoy it as big as appropriation. You remember? Everybody wanted to be chairman of ethics and privileges under Farouk. Farouk?
He's now in Kuje.
Yes, I'm aware.
It's not as a result of that.
What he did then was, I chaired the rules and business, he chaired ethics and privileges. What he did then was, he had a lot of development partners who were supporting him. 2, 3, 4. They were publicizing his activities, giving publicity to it. They were funding his trips outside. They were funding the members' trips. They gave them a lot of support to the committee. So, clerk of the committee, you can do it. You have a challenge of defining the functions between the job of the Committee on Petitions, the Ethics and that of Public Complaints Commission. It is a very good issue for attracting funding partners to come and enable you have a retreat, even study outside. You understand? So that you find a way up. And then the budget of the Public Complaints Commission will also make some provision for them to support the funding. You can take about 100 million from it, from their budget, you know, and then support the committee in studying, because by the time you are able to define, you find out whether they can still exist, yet they will still exist, and whether it was a good idea, and can their functions be delimited to either reporting to us, yet they report to the National Assembly, but what happens to it? We just established it and set it up and then run like a government of its own. The legislature has not been able to come back to them to say, how have you run? And what is the difference between your function and my function? I set you up. So you can have a big retreat that gets these powers elevated and known. And of course, it will be an opportunity to let members of the public know also that this is what they're supposed to do. You have a lot of media publicity, and they know the address, and they will be busy, because they're not busy. In most states, they don't even know that they exist. Yeah, they don't know they exist. Meanwhile, we provided money for them to build the secretariat in every state. That is, they didn't hire. They didn't hire. They built secretariat. That is a full building and good personnel, although they even overhire. So that's it. Finally, I will also want to discuss with my colleague, the chairman of Rules and Business, that you need to also have a big retreat to reset rules and business. Because after myself and the other person left, it's like we left with the office. It's like the job was taken, because everybody is now taking the job of rules and business.
Yes.
Everybody is taking it.
It's true. It's true.
Everybody's doing it. So it's not supposed to be. Rules and business is the #1 committee in the legislature. It's not appropriation.
It is #1. In the engine room.
It's in the engine room.
It's the engine room.
You know, like Dr. Omar was saying, as chairman of Rules and Business, I'm the first to go, I'm the last to return. Yeah. I'm the first to go, I'm the last to return. If you see me, I look healthier now. I'm better than when I was in the House and Senate.
It's true.
Because I was stressed.
You were stressed.
I was overstressed. Because I would look at the bills, I would read the bills, I would gazette the bills, I would make sure it is published. There are times I used to run to Apapa when we were gazetting bills in Apapa. When it is too urgent, I run in, bring it. And under me, you cannot take a bill without it being gazetted and everybody having a copy of the bill. You couldn't. And then later, we established the journal and then extricated ourselves from gazetting the bills in federal government press Apapa. We now had our own journal. But now you don't even have money to publish the bills in the journals. Do members have bills? They don't have. Yeah. Why don't you have? Sorry?
You don't.
You don't have. And so when you pass a bill like Electoral Act, clause 1 to 5, 10 to 15, and then it goes into trouble in the court, and the court set it aside, and you say the courts are not cooperating. No, you did not read. You didn't even see the document you read. You passed. You just said aye to the government. So you have to come back. The legislature has to come back to itself. Reduce its own financial responsibilities. Make money available for legislative activities. Because now, there is too much money that goes to the management. Management of the National Assembly is running like a government of its own. It's running like central bank. The clerk can do anything with any amount of money. And they deceived us to establish management account. And that management account is better funded than our own account. We have too much problem in our constituency. So we don't even sit when they are doing budget and appropriating. They gave us National Assembly Service Commission bill to pass. We passed it for them. They created about the 11 permanent secretaries. The permanent secretaries that have retired, they are still paid from the funds of the National Assembly. You know, like the other one. They established a big bureaucracy. And then the legislators themselves, who were the main issue in the National Assembly, have become less important. You are now crying for how to survive and sustain yourself. But the legislators are, every clerk to the National Assembly who has retired, deputy clerk, go to contest for governorship. Because he's able to. Yes. So you have to be able to sit down and then review this budget and then make provision for yourself. How can you be establishing legislative library service and it will have full bureaucracy? It is the fund of the legislature that is taking. The National Assembly Service Commission is bigger than a commission. It's becoming a body. You understand? So take a look at it again. Otherwise, the legislators are now being treated as the grand old woman whom the grandchildren are waiting to die to celebrate.
Sorry. The chairman and deputy chairman of all those commissions.
Yes.
I mean the chairman, I mean the presiding officers. And that is the reason why they allow it to exist, because they also eat from there.
Yes.
That's the problem.
They eat from there.
They eat from there. That is why they allow that.
When we established the Institute of Legislative Studies, the Institute of Legislative Studies was brought to us by Policy Analysis and Research Project. It was simply a small institution. We created it for the purpose of being a research body to us, not the kind of